Hey, what's going on, everyone? Bass here. So with the Packers' final preseason game just one day away against the Kansas City Chiefs, in this video I wanted to go over the three main things to watch for in this final game. Now, yesterday, Matt LaFleur did state that the Packers will not be playing any starters in this last preseason game. A lot of people have differing opinions on this. I agree with them not playing any starters. Obviously, we saw what happened last year, week 1 against the Saints, that horrible loss where everyone seemed rusty, out of it, not on the same page. So that's something that you have to worry about, but I think the potential of injuries outweigh that. Now, you don't want starters to go into this game, even if it's just 3 drives. There still is a chance of a freak injury, a freak accident, a non-contact injury. You just don't want to see those things in a meaningless preseason game. So I do agree with this. They still need to trim the roster down to 53 by next Tuesday, so getting the most snaps out of these back-end roster guys is definitely important. Now, I did want to see some of the starting defense and Aaron Rodgers throwing to these young receivers, at least for just a couple drives, but we're going to have to wait a couple weeks for week 1 to see that. In last week's video, we talked about watching for the offensive line, and Zach Tom continues to impress. He's one of 2 rookies that has not allowed a single pressure yet. Caleb Jones has been impressive, as is Jake Hansen. We also talked about watching for the tight end depth, and Tyler Davis made yet another mistake. He had a fumble last week. Sal Cannella was the leading receiving tight end with only 13 yards. Didn't get much out of the depth tight ends last week. And then finally, we talked about the young defensive line, and most importantly, Devontae Wyatt, who played in his first preseason game, didn't make much of a splash, didn't really have a great game by any means, and Chris Slayton was the leading tackler on the defensive line with 5 tackles. So with those in mind, let's move into the 3 most important things to watch for in this upcoming game against the Kansas City Chiefs. For number 1, we have Christian Watson making his NFL debut, because as of right now, all signs point to Christian Watson playing in this game. He's been in team portions in practice for over a week now, and although he said it will be a game time decision, he said he feels really good, and I see Christian Watson playing in this game, which will be huge for him. He hasn't had much of an offseason after getting a knee scope after mandatory minicamp, and getting these actual reps, although it will be with Jordan Love, is very important, as he may be a big part of this offense as a deep threat wide receiver. Aaron Rodgers already spoke highly of him this week, so Watson getting a feel for things before week 1 in an actual game would be a big deal. Watson himself said getting the experience, getting the first game jitters out of the way, and to see all the progress he's made would be huge. So I do hope we get to see Christian Watson in this final preseason game. I'm super excited for that. But this game will also be very important for receivers such as Juwan Winfrey and Samori Toure, who are both seemingly fighting for that last wide receiver spot, that number 7 spot. That's, of course, if the Packers do decide to keep 7 wide receivers. With Danny Davis being cut yesterday, it's really down to just these 2 guys. Now, to this point, Juwan Winfrey does have more yards than Samori Toure with 68 to 42 yards. So we'll see who ends up putting up the best resume to potentially make this 53-man roster. For number 2, we have how Jordan Love closes out his first full preseason. After a shaky first game against the 49ers, Jordan Love played a much better, more confident game last week, in my opinion. He seemingly made better decisions, was really slinging the ball around. We saw him scramble in situations where he normally wouldn't, fit balls into gaps we usually aren't used to seeing. And although he only went 12 for 24 for 113 yards and 1 touchdown, I thought he looked good out there. He also got to play a lot more last week than he did week 1. He played into the 4th quarter against the Saints, whereas against the 49ers, he only played 1 half, which I argued was the correct move in multiple videos, saying he should play more than 1 half. He should play into the 4th quarter, and I'm glad the coaches agreed, the coaching staff agreed, and played him into the 4th quarter, so I hope they do the same this week. And again, 2 big plays didn't happen last week because of drops yet again from Romeo Doubs and Samori Toure, so it hasn't all been on Love for this low completion percentage and a couple of the interceptions in week 1. There's been plenty of drops by these wide receivers as well. The wide receivers need to help him out as well and make these catches. In these 2 games, which equates to about 5 quarters, Jordan Love has 289 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions, where 2 of those interceptions I really wouldn't put on Jordan Love. So I would love to see him cap off this preseason with a high completion rate and multiple touchdowns. Jordan Love has looked miles better this year than he has in the prior 2 years, and he's definitely looked like he's been more in charge. So I'm excited to see him in his final preseason game. For number 3, I have the very thin safety room. The Packers have suffered a plethora of injuries at the safety position this entire training camp, outside of the starters, which Darnell Savage was injured as well, a hamstring injury, which he's still out with. He suffered in family night. Hopefully he's ready to go week 1. Injuries have occurred to Tariq Carpenter, Dallin Levitt, Ennis Gaines, and Vernon Scott. The only depth safety that has been here the entirety of training camp and stayed healthy the whole time is Sean Davis. this. And for that reason, he likely will be the safety number 3 on this roster. Vernon Scott was waived yesterday. Although he's had a good camp, he suffered a pretty bad injury against the Saints, and that's likely why they injured/waived him. He will revert back to the IR if he goes unclaimed, which I think likely will happen. And the Packers have also signed 2 new safeties in the recent 2 weeks in Micah Abernathy and Devontae Cross, because they were really struggling to get guys even out there because they had a lot of injuries, like I said. And Abernathy has been very impressive in my opinion. I really liked what I've seen from him so far. In last game, he had 4 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 interception. He definitely could make this 53-man roster as that 4th or 5th safety. Donald Levitt's injury looks long-term, so who knows when we'll get him back. And Ennis Gaines and Tariq Carpenter just returned to practice this week from their injuries. So the Packers very well could keep none of these guys and sign a street free agent after cutdowns if they like one of those guys better. Or even make a trade. All of this could possibly happen. This is easily the weakest depth at any position group on this football team, in my opinion, and that is worrisome. The Packers are 1 regular season injury away from having trouble at that safety spot. Now, Rasul Douglas did take snaps at safety alongside Adrian Amos in yesterday's practice, so at least that's a good fallback plan. But overall, this last game will be super important for these depth safety guys to either make the 53-man roster or not make the 53-man roster. And of course, there are many more things to watch for in this game. Just in my opinion, these are the 3 most important, the things I'm going to be keeping my eyes on the most for this last preseason game. But I want to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Is there something that you are mainly watching for that I didn't mention today? If that's the case, just leave that in the comments below. I also will be streaming for this preseason game tomorrow, starting at 7:45 Eastern Standard Time, so make sure to come over to my stream and come hang out. And of course, if you are new here and want more Packers news, analysis, and updates daily, please consider going down, clicking that subscribe button, as well as turning on notifications to not miss any of the videos. But that about does it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, if you could please leave a like down below. But I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching, and as always, go Pack Go.